just so surprising. But speaking of that ground game, we kind of mentioned some similarities to their loss 2 weeks ago to the Rams. Let's take a look at these numbers from yesterday. The Cardinals, 55 rushing yards on just 20 carries, guys. There was only 6 carries in the second half.
Right.
That unbalance, that plays a huge role in it.
It does, but when you're playing from behind, you have to throw, right? So there's less opportunities to run the football, and that's what they're doing in the second half. They were dropping back and trying to catch up, and then you're not running the football. No big plays. They didn't have any long runs that might soften the defense a little bit and make them keep coming back to the running game. But that wasn't a typical performance for the Cardinals on any level. Defense didn't force any turnovers, no big plays. We didn't get the ground game established, and the Cardinals were leading the league in rushing.
You guys think it was bizarre that Andre Ellington didn't touch the ball more?
Explosive guy, just like really, one carry? It's unbelievable.
I guess maybe it's because he put the ball on the ground early in the game, but still, the fact that he didn't touch the ball more, an explosive guy like that is still. Even in the fourth quarter, you think another weapon that the Steelers have to account for. Why not put him out there?
You're right.
I don't know.
And it's one thing we mentioned through the first 6 weeks. They've done a great job of spreading the ball around through the air, getting different receivers involved. It couldn't have been more of an opposite story on the ground yesterday. I mean, Chris Johnson had 14 carries. The next closest one was David Johnson with 3, and as we mentioned, Andre with 1. How do you not spread the ball around on the ground a little more when you have 3 great backs in your backfield?
Well, hey, we knew this was the start of a really tough stretch for the Cardinals season, right? 6 out of 8 road games. They just need to bounce back and do what they normally do. I think the biggest thing is on a Monday night at home. Can you imagine the electricity in that stadium? I mean, it's already great for every single Cardinal game, but the fact that it's a Monday night game, these fans are going to want to put on a show for the entire country, just show what the atmosphere is like at a Cardinal game. The whole country's going to get a taste of this. They have no idea what they're in for.
Yeah.
The noise level and the excitement inside University of Phoenix Stadium. But I think the Cardinals get back to doing what they do best, feed off that energy, making big plays, and then hopefully get the game where it's out of hand and they can just cruise on in. Because these close games aren't working for them right now.
Let's say we mentioned the defensive intensity or lack thereof yesterday. Let's take a look at the numbers. Cardinals, of course, allowed 310 yards, no interceptions, no fumble. They had 1 sack, so did the Steelers. Steelers allowed 469 yards, but they came up with 2 picks, it's Carson Palmer, and recovered 1 fumble. I mean, we mentioned it, but it's that tentative. How did they not just go right at Landry Jones and be that aggressive Cardinals defense that we've seen so far this season?
It's something that you could look back at now and say, did they make a mistake there? But I think they thought if he was in the game, they wouldn't need to put the extra heat on him or take a chance that he could just lob it up, and they could come up with some fluke big play. So, they thought that they were going to be able to stop him the conventional way without blitzing and throwing extra heat on him, and it didn't work. He looked like an NFL quarterback, and they weren't expecting that yesterday.
Take a look who swung by the desk here. Our very own ABC15 Sports Director, Craig Fooey.
Look who the cat dragged in.
How are you, bud?
I'm good.
Good to see you, good man. You're looking great.
Oh, yeah, getting better.
What was your take from yesterday, bud?
3 things. You cannot go on the road for 8 or 9 days. That's absolutely taboo in the NFL. You can't do it. Every time the Cardinals have done it, they've failed on the road miserably. Even if you're staying at a 5-star resort like the Greenbrier. We all heard of the Greenbrier Classic Golf Tournament. It's a beautiful course. It's a beautiful ancient hotel, over 100 years old. You can't do it. We're all creatures of habit.
So this played a role in the loss.
Absolutely played a role. We're all creatures of habit. You get out of that habit, and it doesn't
Especially
work.
in football.
Football is totally bizarre for these guys to go on the road that long and stay away from family, stay away from their beds. They hate training camp, and they're in a luxury hotel.
I get it's a weird week, but how do you explain the great start in the first half then? They came out focused.
Yeah, that's great, but what happened in the second half? Landry Jones? The last touchdown he threw was at Oklahoma 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Landry Jones, and then 3 turnovers, 9 penalties. How many personal fouls?
Right.
Several.
Yeah, a lot of
and I listened to Tyrann Mathieu after the game, and he said, we changed the calls in the second half. First time I've heard a player say that about James Betcher, the new defensive coordinator. we changed the calls in the second half. They didn't put pressure on Landry Jones.
Right. If the defensive coordinator is changing calls in the second half, what does that have to do with staying in a hotel for 8 days?
Well, I think that's a combination
factor.
You can't go back to the hotel for everything about the game.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's a huge factor.
But
The
I think
defensive coordinator is changing strategy.
I think it
That's
starts
huge.
there. It's
Or they
really
panic.
tough. It's really tough. You've been on the road covering teams.
Right.
When you're on the road for 5, 7, 8, 9
It's
days,
rough.
it gets rough.
Yeah.
And it's fun for a while, and then it gets rough. You're not in your routine. You're not paying bills. You're not doing your laundry.
Right.
You're not doing the
Keep in
typical
mind, they
things.
were already in Detroit, right?
Exactly.
And then they spent 2 days there. Then they had to just pack up and
Right.
move on to another hotel. And again,
And-
if we look at the number one thing from yesterday, it was lack of focus.
Right.
Right? And what leads to lack of focus? Disrupting your routine.
Right.
And that's all I'm
Hey,
saying.
here's a
is they gotta
thought.
roll.
The Ravens were in San Francisco last night. Guess what? They flew home to Baltimore, and then
Right.
they're coming to Arizona next Monday.
Yeah.
So they didn't stay out on the West Coast. Heck, I would have stayed if I'm Harbaugh. I would have taken my team to San Diego.
Sure, why
Come on,
not?
Right?
La Jolla.
This is such a this is such a ridiculous scapegoat.
I'm not saying I'm just saying it's a different animal. Baseball players are used to it. Basketball players are used to it. Football players are not used to that change in routine.
Again, I just don't see how they can come out and put up almost 300 yards of total offense in the first half. And then you come out and say, well, it was the Greenbrier.
Oh, I'm not saying it was. I'm saying that that's all part of the whole thing. You get guys out of sync, out of routine. It's the reason they do everything the same every week in
Right.
the NFL.
Let me ask
Tuesday's
you this.
a day off.
When you were watching yesterday, what was your feeling at halftime when they only led by a
I
7?
never felt like they had control of the game. Statistically, they look great. Carson Palmer finishes with over 400 yards. John Brown finishes with a career day, almost 200 yards receiving. If I told you those stats, you'd say, holy cow, they won the game big time. It was a landslide. But I never felt watching the game like they were in control. I just didn't feel like they had that, the mojo was not there.
Yeah, and then once again, like 2 weeks ago, Pittsburgh was more aggressive physically. They brought the fight to them a little
They
bit,
did.
and the Cardinals saw that. And this is a unique team. When things aren't falling into place for the Cardinals with the big plays, with
Right.
the interceptions, with those quick changes, they start getting in their mind. We're not used to this. This isn't our normal script. And then it all leads to
Here's
what we
here's
saw
another thing,
yesterday.
guys. When Tyrann Mathieu and Dayon Buchanan are your two leading tacklers, there's something wrong
Right,
with that
that's a
scheme.
major
Wrong.
problem.
Where's your linebackers?
Yeah.
And I know Dayon's playing more like a linebacker than as a safety, but where are your linebackers?
Cardinals already missing Alex Okafor, you think?
Alex Okafor, Kevin Minter had 4 tackles for the game.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Dwight Freeney played 11 snaps on Sunday. Did we hear his name called?
Not at all.
No.
Never.
Yeah,
Not
and
once.
it's going to take a while before he's ready to
Larry
go.
Fitzgerald and John Brown each had a tackle.
I think it was a mistake not putting more heat on Landry Jones
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you want that guy thinking.
Yes.
All right, when you come in there as a third stringer, there's already enough on your mind.
Yeah.
But if your shoulder's hurting, right, and you don't know where the pressure's coming from, and you're trying to figure that out, it really would have
Here's what I think happened, and you're on the road for that 8 days, 9 days, whatever it was, and you're thinking, we're playing against Mike Vick. That alone is, we've got confidence going into this game.
Yeah.
Mike Vick's not Ben Roethlisberger. And then Mike Vick goes out, and now we've got Landry Jones, and as a defense, these are still young guys that they could, we got this one in the bag,
Yeah.
we're done. They give up 22 second half points. 22.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was.
What was your initial reaction when you heard Landry Jones was coming in the game?
Well,
It's like everyone.
We were laughing at one of our sons follows Oklahoma, like he's a diehard Oklahoma Sooner fan, and so Landry Jones is going in. Landry Jones is like, he hasn't played at all in
Yeah.
3 years. His last touchdown pass was at Oklahoma.
Right.
He hasn't thrown one
Yeah.
at all in the NFL. And it was like he went in there and looked like a seasoned vet, didn't he?
Sure
And
did.
I said this after the game. Landry Jones is now the second string quarterback in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we were talking about earlier in the show, Craig. I can't believe they didn't figure that out a month ago.
I know,
I mean,
right?
they had to go on the street and bring in Vic.
Yeah.
Where's Landry Jones been in practice and in
Right.
training camp for the Steelers? Unless
Right.
it was just a fluke yesterday where he caught
Right.
lightning in a bottle. I hope that wasn't the case.
But the whole combination of things, the personal fouls, the penalties, the turnovers, what in the heck was Carson Palmer doing throwing that ball in the end zone there?
So you
Double
did-
coverage.
so you didn't see the safety.
I know.
Yeah.
I heard that, but it's like, come on,
Yeah.
Carson. You're
Yeah.
a seasoned veteran.
Right.
You've been in the league for how many years? 14 years. You see that.
Right.
Which we talked about last week. The question was, can Carson Palmer lead the Cardinals to a Super Bowl? At some point, if they want to get there, he's going to have to lead the team on a last-minute drive like that.
Yeah.
That didn't inspire a lot of confidence.
No, it's the same discussion they're having in Denver right now. At what point does Peyton Manning hurt the Broncos? Because right now they're winning in spite of him.
Is it
Yeah,
Brock
they
Osweiler
are.
time in Denver?
But
That's what they're talking about right
Yeah.
now.
Craig, do you think there's any scenario where Peyton can come out of a game? I don't. I
No.
don't think there's any
No.
way Peyton could not
No.
start.
No.
I mean, and there's no reason to believe that Brock is the answer yet.
No.
Right? And so they could never do that. But they are talking about
although
it.
Brock had a really good preseason too, and people were talking about him there. I was up there for that game 4, and the folks in Denver were talking about how great Osweiler was looking. But now the conversation is, can we win in spite of Peyton Manning?
Right.
Unbelievable.
Which is
It's just too bad.
Here's the other thing, too. You look at the undefeated teams, and you look at the really good teams right now. You look at Cincinnati, right? Finding a way to win. You look at Carolina, finding a way to beat Seattle on the road yesterday. That's what separates these teams.
32 seconds to go.
That are going to have home field advantage late in the playoffs. So at some point, if the Cardinals haven't figured it out, they need to figure it out very, very quickly and win some of these close games, because they're kidding themselves if they think they're just going to steamroll everybody.
Right. And here's the other thought, too. If you remember last year, the Seahawks were 3-3 through the first 6 weeks. They were 3-3. Right now they're 2-4. So don't count them out, is what I'm saying.
Tom already has. Tom counted them out on week 1.
Not yet. Not yet.
There's a big difference, though, between 2-4 and 3-3.
There is, but I'm just saying a year ago they were 3-3 through the first 6 weeks, and they went to the Super Bowl, obviously. But now they're 2-4. So I'm just saying and where did San Francisco come from?
Yeah.
Thank goodness the Ravens were in town.
Yeah. The question is, are the Ravens that bad?
It must be.
Are you afraid of a team that's 1-5? I think
they beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
I know, and you could look at it and say, wow, a team that's 1-5 might start mailing it in, but John Harbaugh will not let them do that, especially on national TV. The Cardinals are in for a big fight this coming Monday.
And they still have Joe Flacco.
The Ravens are going to be ready to go.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Heading into this season, this kind of, I guess, makes the 4-2 feel a little bit better. Heading into the season, I had this week circled, assuming Ben Roethlisberger was in. Right. I had this circled for a loss.
Yeah.
Situations changed, of course. It's tougher to lose against a third-string quarterback. However, it's the same result, and I think maybe a lot of people circled a loss at Heinz Field. Does that make it any better coming off a loss like that?
Not to me, just because it was Mike Vick and Landry Jones. I mean, I just see that as just an inexcusable loss when you're playing against a second and third string quarterback against a team that's struggling without Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. Clearly, they weren't struggling yesterday in the second half.
Right. And I think it actually makes it worse.
It does.
Because when you think this was a game they probably aren't going to win, but then it was like almost delivered to you on a silver platter that you could win this game, and then you look back at the end of the year. You always do that at the end of the season. If it could have gone a little bit differently in a couple of these games, a couple plays ended a little bit differently, where could you pick up those W's? Yesterday was one of them. Yeah. Clearly St. Louis was as well. But they're not going to go undefeated this year. They have to learn from this. They have to realize they're going to be in some close games and figure it out.
Here's the thing, though, is the Cardinals still have a 2-game lead in the division, but if they want a first-round bye, they're 2 games behind the Panthers and the Packers now. Right. They're going to look back in December and think, man, we had to have those games.
They had to
win the wild card in the division right now is St. Louis, right? Because they had the week off. We don't know where they're at. But they're sitting at
2-3.
2-3.
Yeah.
I don't believe San Francisco is going to be there at the end of the year, and Seattle will see. I mean, when you have a bad offensive line and you get your quarterback hit as much as Russell Wilson is, I mean, that could turn into a disaster eventually, especially with the miscommunication in the secondary. They're bickering. The Legion of Doom is like bickering and having all these issues. So St. Louis is still a wild card for me to see they've actually turned that corner with that.
And keep in mind, the 49ers have a brand new head coach, new coordinators, new situations, so they finally started to click. Colin Kaepernick looked like Colin Kaepernick yesterday. That we hadn't seen that guy early in the season. So.
And also, back on Seattle, I mean, without Cam Chancellor, they're 1-5.
Oh my gosh.
They could easily, some would say should be 1-5.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's helpful.
Oh yeah.
that proves to Tom's point that that is a tough.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be easy. And a Monday night football game is never easy. Right. National television guys. Again, it's a Monday night game. It's nationally televised. Younger players tend to get super hyped up and excited about it, and so you hope the veterans can kind of settle them down. Say, look, it's just another game.
Here's the other thing that scares me about Monday night a little bit is Joe Flacco is so devastating on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? In a Monday night game, the spotlight is up a little bit hotter, and that is almost like a playoff situation in the month of October. So he is very, very dangerous on the road.
Well, they're at a point where they need a win. They have to get a win.
Yeah.
Right? So they're coming to Phoenix next Monday night to get a win.
Yep.
I mean, their backs are against the wall.
Yeah, totally desperate.
Absolutely desperate. That's what bothered me, throughout the season with the other teams. When you're coming off a loss, that scares me. The team gets a little chip on their shoulder. It's like scary at that point. But we'll see.
What's it going to come down to Monday night?
I think really playing at home.
Yeah.
I think being at home with a hometown crowd, although it didn't help them a couple weeks ago against the Rams, 3 weeks ago, it should help them at home on Monday night. Although we've been through that Chicago Bears Monday night meltdown with Denny Green.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and crown their ass on that one.
Yeah.
A little bit different team now.
A lot different team.
Different mindset.
Yeah. The thing that killed them against the Rams, too, was fumbling the opening kickoff. That took the crowd out right away.
It did.
And the Cardinals at that point weren't used to playing from behind and, without the upper hand. So they're going to come out ready to go. I mean, they have to be humiliated from yesterday.
Did Carson take a beating yesterday? Did he get hit?
He only got sacked once.
only sacked once, but it seemed like he was getting hit different times throughout that game. I don't know. I mean, I hope he's okay.
Two quarterback hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so much of that is the hits after he gets rid of the ball. And, luckily he's not the type of guy that's going to be running out of the pocket and getting smacked around too much. But Carson needs to bounce back and have a big game next week.
One more note on Carson before we really talk about Baltimore. Their only 2 losses of the season. You were talking about Carson heavily in both. You know, the Rams loss, he completes one more pass, they possibly win the game.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday wasn't his best.
But
I hate to say, is it fair? But in his position as a veteran, I think it's 100% fair that he takes a lot of the heat.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, listen, he is where he is. He's in the top 10 quarterback rankings across the NFL. He's looked like a savvy veteran for the last 3 years. In Oakland, here last year, he's won games consistently here. You have to shoulder that blame. And you're the quarterback. You're the guy, the key guy. And no matter what level, Pop Warner, junior high, high school, NFL, college, it's on the quarterback. And when he throws those interceptions yesterday, it's on him.
And he's such a perfectionist. I mean, he's going to be the first person to point the finger at himself.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And he's level-headed, too.
Only one-word answers down the line. Quarterback rate or passer ratings. Landry Jones 149.3 versus Carson Palmer's 83.7 yesterday. Your reaction in one word?
Disappointing.
Fail.
Seriously?
Flabbergasted.
All great words.
But literally an 83 is not that bad in an NFL game. That's not terrible. But Landry Jones comes on and just puts it in.
Unbelievable. Third-string quarterback outperforming a veteran like that.
Yeah.
What do you guys expect that atmosphere is going to be like on Monday night? We've talked about it several times this season, that it's one of the best home field advantages in the league. That's going to be a big factor Monday night.
Crazy. The hometown crowd, they've been on the road for 2 weeks. They're excited to get the Cardinals back in town.
Take a regular season game, and we know how crazy and electric it is. Add 30%.
Right.
That's what a Monday night does. And especially, if they had won these last 2 out of 3 games, so they're 6-0, the crowd, they're going to feel it. They're going to know that they can make a difference on Monday night.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to bring their game and ready to go.
I agree.
By the way,
fun.
We didn't talk about predictions.
Yeah.
Who won last week?
Oh, you are 2-0 when the Cardinals lose.
I know. I only win
2-0
when the Cardinals lose.
That's something to be proud of.
Did you lose or just close?
No, just close. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a close.
Their
game.
pain is your gain, Jason.
Yeah. Well, also, speaking of score predictions, 25-13, that final is the first for either team in history.
Right?
And it's only the 5th time that final scores happened in the NFL.
Wow.
Is that crazy? Wow. So we'll save our score predictions for next Monday because we're going to have another Cardinals countdown before the next game.
That's right.
But that is going to wrap it up for this week's edition of Cardinals Countdown. For the Craig Fooey, Shane Dale, Tom Zenner, I'm Jason Snavin. We'll see you right back here at Four Peaks next Monday. Have a good week, guys.
Thanks for watching this week's Cardinals Countdown, brought to you by Sanderson Ford. Check out the powerful Ford F-150 at sandersonford.com.